I really was something.
Yeah, there was a lot of shit in there. There was a lot of shit in there. So yeah, I told you it was gonna be. There's like different stories and different sections of your
That week, I would say. So there's a lesson there though. We need to. I'm the men are portrayed as men who were always logical and legally, but how we put our emotions is something that people need. We as men need to be very, very aware of.
Yeah. Especially before you're having a kid, man. I think you gotta be able. Like, I don't think there was enough emotional maturity from my part.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another installment of Figuring Out Fatherhood. We are filming season 3. I'm your host, Chris Topper, and today I am here with John. John, welcome. Thank you, my bro. Please give us a quick introduction about yourself.
Sure, yeah. So John, work in tech, DevOps engineer. And I'm a father of one to a 33-month-old. I always hate when people say like they equate it to months. She's 2, she was almost 2.
But now she's going to be free in
January.
Yeah. Okay, that's exciting. So I think by the time this comes out, she'll probably be free already anyway. But so what we do with Figuring Out Fatherhood, we quite literally figure out fatherhood. I want to hear your story. I want to hear your journey from you meeting her mom to the pregnancy, to how you dealt with the pregnancy, to her being born and her growing up till the present time. So just talk us through everything. Let's start with meeting her mom. How did that happen?
Sure. So, I mean, in this day and age, it's probably a bit conventional to meet people online as opposed to in the bar and stuff. So we met online. I won't disclose the app because we don't want to give him free money. But
Appreciate it. Yeah,
we were online, and do you know what it was? I was instant. As soon as I met her, I just knew. Oh yeah, I just knew something was gonna transpire between us that would be a bit serious. And it was weird because I was kind of running through the 60-mile world. Respect. I was doing my thing, but I met her and it was kind of it was an instant attraction. It was a vibe and just kind of.
And just based on what you're telling me right now, so you guys started dating, you were together officially.
Yeah.
How long is the relationship? At what point did you get pregnant?
Yeah. Do you know what? That's a very good question. I tell you why. Because we met and I think it was like 3 or 4 months in.
Okay.
She got pregnant. We were still figuring things out.
Oh, cool.
We're still kind of in the honeymoon phase and things like that. But certainly not ready to have children yet.
Based on why do you say you weren't ready? What?
Just because, would you be ready?
I would. You want to, I'm not sure.
Exactly. So for 3-4 months, it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Quick. So, but we knew that we wanted to be with each other for a long time. And, we were madly in love at that time. But I think, it just wasn't the right time. So we were thinking about it for a long time, what to do and what not to do, and it was getting to a critical point where it was like, look, it's either you, of course, and don't. So we didn't decide to. She didn't decide to go through with it. So
let me just pause you in that. So what was the deciding factor? Like, what made you guys decide? You know what? Let's run with this. Let's see where it takes us.
So this is the thing. So we didn't decide to have the baby then. We had Zuri a while back. So she got pregnant the first time.
Okay.
Like 3-4 months in, and then she got pregnant again with Zuri.
Okay.
Like about maybe a year or 2.
Okay.
After that. So that's why I said it was an interesting story. It depends on what pregnancy you're talking about.
Okay, I'm with you now. I'm back.
No. Yeah. No, it's all good.
So okay, I guess the second time, what made you guys decide that, you know what, we're ready for this, let's go for it. Let's heal through it.
Yeah. That again was quite interesting, actually. So, we'd been together for a while then, and then, the context is the last time that, she kind of got pregnant was kind of new, still figuring things out and didn't go through with it. And then the second time around, it was quite an arduous process. And I'll give you a few reasons as to why. She isn't from London, she's from Cheshire.
Okay.
And you can imagine that's kind of like a small town, small sort of area. So she's come to London, big city. She was, doing well in her career. She was on track to get like a big promotion in her career. She's a school teacher, so she's going to be like a head of maths and things like that. And so, you know, to cut a long story short, she didn't want to stop her career or stop her life being who she was with me to be a mum, right? So, so when she felt pregnant, you know, I was kind of along the lines of, we should do this. We've been together for about 2.5 years now. We live together. You know, this is the right time. And she wasn't ready. She didn't want to, you know, do that. And I think the primary reason why she didn't, you know, have an abortion around that time was because I kind of wanted to have a family with us, and so we were going back and forth. You know, she would wait, and her hormones were going crazy. You know, so she would. So I remember this very, very vividly. I would be at work, and she would call me, and she would be like, "Look, John, I can't go through with this. I'm gonna, you know, go to the clinic." And I would have to phone her and not convince her, but say, "Look, just let's have a chat. You're coming back to work. Let's have a chat. Let's do this. Let's do that." And we were doing this for a long time, like maybe 3-4 months in.
So we're talking about this is now during the pregnancy.
This is during the pregnancy. This is during the first trimester, right? And then I think, I don't know what happened, but I think her friends started to maybe talk to her a bit more and say, "Look, it's not going to be such a bad thing if you do have this baby with John." Her mum sort of kind of was getting involved a bit more as well. And I think she just started to slowly come around to the idea of you know, actually having to, and us being a family. And then I think by the time it came to the end of the first trimester, she was like, "Okay, cool, we want to do this." So to answer your question, when did we decide, okay, we're actually doing this? I guess I would say, you know, towards the end of that first trimester is when she actually decided that's it.
Okay, and do you think her doubts stem from anything in a relationship, or just literally just her career and her as an individual?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think primarily her doubts stem from our relationship.
Okay.
It was, I mean, look, we were madly in love. You know, I'm not really kind of ashamed to say that, but there were some rocky patches.
Of course.
There were some rocky patches in our relationship, and you know, a lot of it kind of stemmed from myself. I don't think a lot of people talk about this, you know, that much in relationships, but you know, there were some insecurities there from my part, and I think she was very much in the school of, we need to have like a stable relationship and stability and calmness and goodness, and not so much extremities in our relationship before we can bring a child into this world, right? And she's quite sensible, and in hindsight, I agree with that. But you know, so she was very much like, "Look, if I have a kid with this person, what's not to say that, you know, I'm gonna do this and he's gonna think I'm doing X, Y, and Z."
Of course.
So I think a lot of it stemmed from that.
Okay, and what was your perspective on this? Why did you think, yes, we should do this? Because you mentioned that your relationship matured by that point in time. 2.5 years, I think you said? 2.5 years. Yeah, so it matured to a certain degree. So what was your reason in terms of like, you know, let's go ahead with this. I want this for us.
Yeah. I mean, I went in the family with her.
Okay.
I really loved her, you know, and I thought this would be good for us, sort of thing. And I just didn't think there was anything as beautiful, as great, as perfect as, you know, us being a family. And I was really convinced by that in my mind, sort of thing, that this would be good for us. So I think that was the overriding thing that made me think, do you know what? No, this is actually kind of good for us.
I think that's beautiful. Personally, I think that's amazing, because obviously we hear and see a lot of, well, I didn't want it anyway. From men, I didn't want it. But here's someone actually saying that I wanted this, so I can respect that. Okay, moving on from there. So now she's come around. She's like, yes, let's have a family.
Yeah.
Talk us through how was that process for the rest of her pregnancy? How was that for you? Like, what changes did you have to make to accommodate for the fact that she was now fully invested?
Yeah.
And we're living together at this point, you said?
We're living together at this point.
What did you do? How did you help her? How did you support her through this period?
Yeah. So when she first came around, it was pretty tough, and I'll tell you why. Well, I think I said the major reasons as to why it was tough. Another reason as to why it was tough is we had booked this holiday. This was going to be like a holiday of a lifetime. We were going to do we did a road trip down PCH, Pacific Coast Highway in the States. So basically from we, hired out a car from San Francisco and drive down to LA, drive down to Vegas and out the coast. And she was like, no, I can't do this pregnant. We're gonna go to Vegas. I can't have fun. I can't turn up. Like, this is crazy. So, but I said, no, we can still go out. We can still have fun. We can still, we can still do things. And we still, we decided to go on a holiday. And I proposed to her,
Yeah.
So I proposed to her while we were out on holiday, because I think one of the major caveats of her saying, okay, I'm going to do this is I want to get married. I want to get married. So,
Okay.
And I wanted to do that, for her anyway, with her anyway. So I proposed, and that was good. And I think from there, the journey was a lot smoother.
Okay.
She didn't really have any cravings or anything like that, which was cool. She wasn't as demanding as like most stories that you hear about, women in being pregnant and things like that. She was just quite cool. Sleeping was pretty tough though. So sleeping was very tough in bed, and she would toss and turn. I remember that. And we went through loads of pregnancy pillows on Amazon and things, but we didn't really find one that was quite right. But overall, it was more me. I wouldn't say it, I don't think hypochondriac is the right word, but I was definitely sort of like, let's go to the hospital and check on the baby. She was like, oh, I haven't felt the baby in you for a bit. I'm like, let's go. Like, oh, like something's not right. What's happening? Right, let's go. And she really wanted a water birth. And because of the amount of times we went into the hospital to check on the baby's heartbeat, because I was just like, on tenterhooks every time she would say she hadn't felt the baby move, they were like, look, you're not at a risk, but we can't give you the water birth. And she was a bit pissed off with me at that time, because I think she was a water baby. Her siblings were water babies as well, so she kind of wanted that Pazuri, but I kind of stopped that, because I was just like, every time she would say she didn't feel the baby move or something, I would be on it. I would be like, let's go get it checked out.
Okay, so on that topic, so what was the source of your concern? Was it because a lack of knowledge? Was it ignorance? Because what you said is it's not out of the ordinary. Like, it does happen where it's just like, I thought the baby wasn't. So is it because now that you've been through that, can you say that it's because you just didn't know better?
Yeah. I think so. I think it's because it was that, and mixed with, context is like, before Miriam, I was with someone, and she was pregnant, and it didn't really go well. So sort of thing. So and that was tough. That was quite tough to kind of deal with. So I think that was on my mind, a lot of the time. So yeah, that kind of played on my mind.
Okay, I think that context changes everything, because obviously it's kind of like you don't want to relive certain trauma or certain things that happened to you in the past. So you're kind of, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's not fair on her to kind of put that on her.
Yeah, of course.
I kind of did that. I should have probably, and maybe this is be the theme of the episode, is to kind of not internalize your trauma, but just be mindful, cognizant of not putting it on your partner. Because it can definitely have detrimental effects on your relationship, and ultimately the relationship that you have with your
of course, Joe. But it's one of those things you're living around. You keep learning. Okay, so now I've talked about the pregnancy. Talk us through the birth. So obviously, she had the water birth. She didn't have a water birth, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Just talk us through the birth. How was that? Were you in the room when it happened?
Yeah. Yeah, the birth was.
Were you good?
The birth was very interesting. It was very interesting. I won't lie. So we did these what's it called? NCT classes or something like that. I think. So we did these prenatal classes beforehand, and they kind of tell you what to prepare for during the birth and things like that, right? And she was very adamant. She was like, no epidural.
Okay.
I want a natural birth, right? Okay, cool, right. And she was like, under no circumstances, they offer me this, tell them no, they don't want this. So I'm like, okay, cool, babe, you got it. And coupled with the fact that I hadn't been great with parking tickets, so she'd always been on to me about parking tickets, right? And so when it happened, she was a few days late, past the due date. I took her to the hospital. I drove her to the hospital, and then we got there. I parked the car. The first hour she was kind of going through the contractions and things like that. So I was like, look, I've got the car. I'm driven here. There's no parking here. Then I'm gonna get a ticket. And I knew if I'd get a ticket, she's gonna be onto me for driving, for getting a ticket.
What's making me laugh is just the fact that you have two very awkward, there's a lose-lose situation. Like, I can either get a ticket or I can annoy you. So
yeah. So I said, look, let me go and drop the car back and I'll be back. She goes, what? What do you mean? No, I'm just going to drop the car. I don't want to get a ticket. She goes, are you really going to go? I said, yeah, because you're going to kill me if I get a ticket. Then just drop the car back. She goes, all right, cool. We drop the car back. This is like 4 in the morning or something like that. And then there's traffic. I don't know why there's traffic at 4 or 5 in the morning, but there was traffic on the way there. Then I had to get an Uber back. All in all, it took about maybe an hour and a half.
Goodness me.
That I left her there. And before I left her, there was a midwife there. So look, I'm going to go and drop the car back. Please just stay with her in your room. Don't leave her. And then, anybody that knows, the midwives are very matter of fact in the place. It's very much in and out sort of thing. I don't think there's that much sort of like individual care that they offer tonight. The mother. So I'm on the way back now. I'm rushing into the hospital. I see the midwife that I spoke to say, look, please stay with her. She's walking out. I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, what's going on here? You're supposed to be up this. No, don't worry, she's fine. And I swear she didn't even. She was talking about who she was referring to or anything. It was like that. Jeez. So I go up there. She's like, she's obviously agony. She's like, look, you left me. Why did you leave me? What's going on? I'm like, oh, well, I had to come up the car. She goes, look, right, okay, cool. Epidural. I said, epidural? Are you sure? I said, yes. I said, no, remember what we said? I said, no. And she's, she's swearing at me now. She's like, give me the epidural. I don't know what to do. I'm shitting myself. I'm like, oh, she wants a epidural. She's told me under no circumstances doesn't want that. Yeah. What do I do? I had to call her mum. I called her mum, and her mum was on her way anyway. So I called her mum and said, look, Mary, she wants an epidural. She said under no circumstances am I to offer this to her. It's getting to a critical stage now, whether you take it or you don't. Well, I've got to sign this form. What do I do? Said, well, she wants an epidural. Yeah, give her the epidural and just sign it. So you sure? I said, yeah, just do it. And so, I signed the form, to give her the epidural, and she did that. And then I think it wasn't smooth sailing from there. There wasn't any complications, but it was like a long burst. I think 33 hours or so. Wow, it was quite long. And she had the gas and air and everything. I tried to do the whole typical man thing by calming her down, and she almost kind of broke my arm by squeezing it so tight, and she did the whole like, you effing da. It was quite intense. But no, the last like half an hour, 45 minutes was a bit of a blur, because it was like, all right, cool, starting to come out, that sort of thing. I didn't look at the business end, called a lot of my mates. I said, just don't think that to yourself.
Of course, yeah.
But yeah, no, it was
okay. And then you leave the hospital. So did she ask why you let her have the epidural?
She didn't bring it up. So we left the hospital, and that was quite an experience, because it's like I think I'd watched like a previous episode where of your show, and it's like, and it was so true. I think he said you get given this baby, and then you go home, and it's just you and the baby in the house, and that's it. And it's just like, okay, you left the house with no baby, and now you come back and it's just you have a kid. What do you do? So that moment was quite surreal, to be fair. But she didn't ask about epidural or anything like that. But I was quite triggered. was a lot going on in my mind at the time. I remember that.
Give us an example, like what was going through your head? What was it? Was it concerns? Were you like worried?
Yeah. I think the main concern was like, I mean, look, Miri, she's white and I'm quite dark, and Zuri came up very pale, and I was like, right, okay, something was what, and I thought, this is right. Is this that's where it's to kind of be, sort of thing, and that was very triggering, and that was fading in my head.
Listen, so how early into this? How early were these thoughts in your mind? Was it as soon as, or was it how long?
Yeah,
into it.
Yeah, it was straight away, and I think it was even like while she was pregnant, because she was so. I think vehemently is an extreme word, but because she was so maybe not really on being a mother at that time.
Okay.
I just thought, why? Is it, I mean, by all intents and purposes, our relationship is quite solid, even though we do have arguments and things like that, but we've been together for a while. Why doesn't she want to have a kid with me? Is it because maybe, there's a possibility that Zuri is not mine and something like that. And so that had been playing in my head while she was pregnant. And so then when she came, when she gave birth, I think her not looking like me kind of compounded that.
Okay, so was this a conversation you addressed? Was something you addressed it for a while, even while she was pregnant? How did you?
Yeah.
Let's reenact that. How did you address it? Imagine if I'm your daughter's mom. What did you say to her?
Yeah. It's gonna be tough to imagine you being my daughter.
I know, we're very different.
But it was just yeah. I mean, it was like it was an ongoing theme in our relationship.
Okay.
The insecurities that I had in that, and most people would probably say, well, no, maybe you guys are not meant to kind of be together, and there were not a lot, but there was quite a few conversations like that amongst friends and things like that. It was primarily from me, I hold my hands up there. I don't think there was any time that Muriel was like, you cheated on me, or you're doing this, you're doing that. I was very much the suspicious party, and I don't know why. Why at the time, because when I think about it, she didn't really give me any reason to think like that. So I think it was definitely something to do with me and my own insecurities and my own thoughts.
Okay, was anything fueling it, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. Was life not good at the time? Work? Were you skilled at work? Like, was there anything any external factors that could have been impacting how you were feeling?
No, nothing, no external factors. Everything was totally internal, just the way maybe I had kind of had a viewpoint on relationships and women at the time. It wasn't mature at all.
Yeah.
Great at all. And yeah, maybe that was partly to do with me kind of, running the streets before Miri and that time, and so my viewpoint on relationships was very skewed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the baby's come, and you've done. I'm assuming you've recommunicated, said that, is this?
Yeah.
It's different, obviously, when the baby's not there. It's one thing. When that baby's actually present.
Yeah.
How did she take that?
She was devastated. Okay. She was absolutely devastated. Because you have to think, right? She wasn't 100% for having the baby, so she kind of had Zuri for me. Well, and that I think is a bit debatable. I think because I think it's your body, it's your choice. Did you really have? Did you cut it? Do you know what I mean? Is that really the case? But
I try not to go down the line of for me, for you.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a blame game. I'm trying not to do that.
Yeah.
Personally, that's just, I'm trying to avoid that. It's just, the baby's here now.
Yeah.
So let's
yes, exactly. So, but I think in her mind, she was like, look, like you kind of promised me, you assured me these things wouldn't happen anymore. You would look after me. I'm far away from my family. My family are based in Cheshire. I'm here. I didn't really want to have Zuri, but she's here now. And now you're kind of doing this again after, you're kind of doing this thing. Whereas I thought we would have the baby and it wouldn't be like this anymore. So she was she was absolutely devastated that she could think, that I could think like that about her, and that, about Zuri, about my kids. So she wasn't happy at all. She really wasn't. And she had every right to be unhappy,
Okay, and I guess moving forward, how did that impact your relationship? Because you mentioned it was rocky, but well, not rocky, you mentioned that you had the arguments before. But now that the baby was here, she'd literally just had a baby, so I can imagine she's still quite, I can't remember the word to use, things are still quite sensitive at that point in time.
She's delicate,
Yeah, and so how did that impact your relationship going forward?
It had a very detrimental effect. I mean, it was really bad. Because that kind of snowballed into me, which is a really real feeling amongst new dads, but being a bit more, feeling like a third wheel in the beginning stages, because you kind of are as a dad, you know, thing in the first couple of months, because she's nursing the baby, she's breastfeeding, the mother and baby need to kind of like create that bond, that unbreakable bond in the first couple of months, while you just kind of stay in the background. But with me having those sort of like insecure thoughts and triggering things like that, I kind of felt like, hey, look, what am I kind of doing here, sort of. And so that kind of like, made the situation worse, and our relationship, was kind of a bit beyond repair for me, which is a real shame. It's a real shame. So yeah.
What was the point that made you realize, like, this is beyond repair? Was it like, she just had it and she'd reached a limit, like?
Yeah, that's a great question. She know. So
okay.
She was like, you know what? And fair play to her. She was like, look, I just had a kid. She's about 3-4 months now. This guy is like saying he loves me, but like, he's not sure whether the kid is his, and he should be like loving me right now, like, to have this baby for us to kind of be stronger. I should be his world. And he's just, and then this is in the midst of the pandemic as well, so we're in lockdown now. It's like about March 2020. Like, what's going on here? I can't kind of raise my kid in this sort of environment. So she left. She went to her mom's in Cheshire for about 6-7 months. So she did that, and that was quite a traumatic time for me, and I think for her as well.
Okay, and just tell us, how did that make you feel at that point in time? Because obviously, as you rightfully admitted, you kind of projected things unfortunate onto her and onto your child, and they sort of, these are just my words, sort of pushed her away.
100%.
How did that feel for you at that point in time? Did you try to rectify it as well? Like, what was it?
I did try and rectify it, but probably not as much as maybe some people would have liked. Maybe because I had an inkling of where she was, even though she didn't tell me where she is. I thought, well, there's only one place she could be, right? And that's back in Cheshire. And so some guys would have said, look, I'm going up to the yacht, and I'm just gonna, I want to see why you this and that and the other. And I didn't really. I just kind of said, well, I know where she is, and I tried to call her a few times, but I didn't drive up there and do the whole mad thing and try and knock on the door and stuff, because I kind of knew that there was something that I needed to change and sort out within myself before doing that, and that's going to take some time. So I didn't try to rectify it as much as maybe I should have done, and I thought maybe that was for the best. But you're 100% right. I did, my actions and my thoughts kind of pushed her away a bit. So the effect on me, it wasn't great. There was a lot of soul searching that had to do in between that time, and a lot of looking inward and things like that stuff.
It's like people always say, you could have done this, you should have done this. Like, hindsight was always 2020. Like, even I could be like, hey, you should have driven up there. But who's to say that if you did drive up there, you would not piss off people more? Or you should have called police, and you have to go back, and you have to deal with the fact that it's like, oh yeah, my child's mom called police.
Exactly.
Do you get? I mean, it's a. All we can do is learn from the present. In my opinion, we can't. There's no point trying to be like, yeah, you should have done this, should have done that. And I say all this to say, like, you shouldn't try to beat yourself up. Especially like that, you didn't try harder. I couldn't sum it up. I feel like he did the right thing. In my opinion, I think he did the right thing personally.
Yeah, we ran the whole gamut. And when I say the whole gamut, I mean, you know, writing the C100 form. Going through mediation, going through court, getting the court, you know, the consent order signed and legally binding by a fire judge, into, you know, eventual visitation days and custody and things like that. So we ran the whole thing from start to finish during the pandemic, mind you, which was crazy because, you know, nobody was allowed out. Certain points, you know, court was like done via Zoom. There was a backlog of, you know, of family cases. You know, we had CAFCAS involved, and then we had to do the whole interviews with CAFCAS during the pandemic and things like that. So yeah, it was.
Okay. So, and in that time, were you able to see your daughter within those months?
Yeah, no, I wasn't. So the first time that I seen my daughter was, I don't want to say September, and the last time that I saw her before then was like May, something like that.
So was this court ordered, or you just couldn't come to an agreement with her mum, or?
Yeah. So it wasn't court ordered. She was so. When we were together, and it was kind of rocky when we had Zoe, you know, and we were kind of going through some things. You know, I said some things that, you know, wasn't really great, and it was, you know, along the lines of, look, if we're going to break up, then, you know, we're just going to have Zoe 50-50 one. And I think that kind of spooked her a bit. She was like, you know, you can't have a 50-50 when she's like 3-4 months old. You know, and I said something like, look, well, like, we're just going to go to court then, you know, just take it to court then. And so she was very much like, this guy could potentially take my kid and do 50-50, which she didn't want. So she was, you know, very reticent to kind of let me be around Zoe until there was some sort of court order in place to say, look, you know, if you take a child and you don't bring her back or something like that, there'd be some sort of punishment, which is quite right, to be fair, in her side.
So in terms of your situation, I think that was sort of the right thing to do. But I just want to make it clear that as a dad, and this is something not a lot of people know, as a dad, you have equal rights to your child's time as the mother does. So she cannot legally keep your child away from you unless this has been court ordered, which is why I asked, was it court ordered or not?
Yeah.
This is something that I learned as well. And stuff like that, I feel like it's important to communicate to both parties, both the mums and dad. So it's just like, just know that if you prevent a man from seeing his child for any reason, unless your child is in danger, you're breaking the law.
So you're 100% right. And to be fair though, to her, I think two things. I think the first thing is that if I had driven up there and just been like, look, I want to see my kid, I think she would have obliged me that.
Okay.
And the second thing is, you know, we had once CAFCAS started to get involved, and I think the caseworker communicated that with her and said, look, you can't legally do this.
Okay.
That's when she started to relent and say, well, okay, you know, he can come up and see it, sort of thing.
That makes sense.
And that was around September time, sort of thing. But I think before then, if I'd just driven up there and said, look, let's sort this out. Look, I want to see my kid. Let's do what we're doing here. I would have been able to kind of do that. So I don't think she was kind of intentionally. She was afraid of the fact that, hey, look, I could kind of take Zuri away and not give her back, and that was in the back of her mind. But I don't think she would have been like one of those moms to be like, you're not seeing your kid for X, Y, and Z. So
so now talk us through coming to an agreement process. What was it like? So you said mediation, went to court. Talk us through that. That whole process. Just shed some light on that, please.
So she's very much like you know, she's got her head screwed on. She's quite sensible. She wants to kind of do things by the book. And for me, you know, my experience of like of situations like this is not really going through court. It's having you know, like an agreement, and you know, a verbal agreement between both parents, as opposed to something written down, consent order and everything, and that. So I was very much like, what are you talking about? What are we doing here? Court, you know, mediation. This is money as well. And I'm like, what's going on here? She was like, no, it needs to be legally binding, it's Y and Z. I said, okay, fine. Well, I was just willing to do anything at that point to see Zuri, to see our kid. So I'm like, look, I'll pay anything, I'll do anything, let's go and do it. So in order to kind of quicken the process, we had come up with an agreement in terms of days and ties and things like that. I think one of the major things was no overnights until she's 3 years old. You know, a lot of my mates were like, no overnights until she's 3, you're getting shafted, mate. Like, what are you talking about? Like, this isn't right, this isn't great. And my thinking was, look, you know, like, it's gonna be hard enough living between two homes. You know, I'd rather, like, she lives with her mom, she has an established relationship with her mom, and she gets to a point where she, you know, I'm able to kind of look after her and, you know, to an extent that she can do overnights. I'm new to this, she's new to this. You know, I can concede there, sort of thing.
Did you feel like you were getting shafted? Not in hindsight, about back then. Did you feel like you were getting shafted?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
100%. But I didn't care. I just wanted to see my kid at that time, so I didn't care. I thought I was getting a short end of the stick, but I didn't care. Now, I don't. I think it was the best. It was the best decision ever. And she does stay overnight with me now. So, and she's not 3 yet. So it just kind of goes to show the flexibility that you can have in consent orders after you get over the trauma and the bad stuff and things like that. So we had an agreement between us. We went through mediation and we said, look, to the mediator, we have like a framework of a consent order here. You know, we want to make this process as quick as possible. The C-100 form says you have to go through mediation before you can kind of get it signed and legally binding and things like that. So this is what we're here, this is what we're doing. And the mediator kind of had individual sessions with us, and she had an individual session with me. She said, look, I've seen you have this framework. And she asked the question, do you agree to this? Is this something that you want to kind of go through? Do you think, you know, her wording wasn't, do you think you're getting shafted or what? It was sort of like, do you think this has worked for you? And that had been the first time that anybody had asked me directly how I was feeling and what I wanted out of this whole thing. And that was quite profound. And I was like, well, I just kind of want to see my kid as soon as possible. She's like, I get that. Everybody wants that, but you got to think about the long term here, whether this is going to work out for you, sort of thing. And that was a good grounding for, you know, us kind of maybe making some adaptations to the consent order, which at first she didn't agree with, but she kind of got around to. And then once, you know, we got that agreed, we got that signed, we got that drafted by a solicitor, we attached that to the C-100 form, we sent it to court, and then, you know, you kind of go through the arduous process of court, which is going through CAFCAS, getting an interview for both parties, then writing a preliminary report, then having like a first hearing, a second hearing, things like that. And that process was hard. It was traumatic. There was a lot of like back and forth between us still, a lot of, you know, and there was bad blood between us at that time, you know, because there was things in the consent order that she wanted that I didn't want, I wanted that she didn't want, and things like that. So
it's interesting you talk about this, and it's not very often that people come to speak candidly about the whole process as well. I think a lot of men I've spoken to, and I think when we were in the group chat together, where it's just a lot of men, they're willing to, in order to avoid all this, if we just spoken about, they're just like, you know what, have a child.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart because they don't realize what they're missing out on. I mean, I respect you very highly for sticking it through, because it could, the thing was saying to me like, gave up. I was like, I wasn't interested, but it all goes to show that it's a lack of trust, because you mentioned earlier that you're from a school where it's kind of like you guys have a verbal agreement and then you both play your part and then you move up from that. But I've also had instances where there's an agreement in place and then one party is not showing up, one party's turning up late, one party's using the child against the other child. And so I also respect her for standing her ground as well, because you could still, like you said, while you guys were in the process of breaking up, you won a 50-50.
Yeah.
She could have held you to that.
Yeah.
Should you have done 50-50?
No chance. There's no chance. A lot of the things, a lot of the way that I was thinking and feeling and talking around that time was based off emotion and heightened emotion at the time, which it wasn't based in logic, which, you know, as men, I think that's one of the things that, you know, I don't want to say we should be doing. You know, we're kind of known for, we're kind of prided for leading with logic rather than emotion. That, you know, don't get me wrong, there is a space and time to lead with emotion. You know, I think emotion fuels mission, but for me at that time, that wasn't the time or space to kind of lead with that and deal with that, especially with, you know, Mary, you know, going through, you know, hormones, and there's a potential for postpartum depression there and things like that. You know, I should have definitely been a bit more logical at that time, and I wasn't. So, and logically, there's no way I could do 50-50. I don't think there's any way I could do 50-50 now, to be fair. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I love Zuri. She's my world, but, you know, I have ambitions, you know, my career, life. I don't want my identity to just be zeroed in as just a dad. Do you know what I mean? And I think similar to Miri as well. And I think if I was to do 50-50, it would be that, and I'll be happy. You know? So yeah. So you're 100% right. That consent order gives you a framework as to what you can kind of do and apply it to, and it gives you some ground rules. And then outside of that, you can be quite flexible. We're quite flexible with our consent order, right? So, you know, it does say there that overnight start at 3, but, you know, we started it at, you know, in the summer, 2.5, because we thought if she just goes to 3 years old, it's like, bam, okay, you have her overnight. It can be a bit, you know, traumatic for Zuri and things like that. So let's build up to that and lead up to that. And there are times where, you know, I want to go out and have fun and go out to like events or raves or this and that, the other. And it falls on days or weekends that I have Zuri, and I'm like, well, look, I want to be doing this, I'm doing that, I've got work. She want to be quite flexible on those dates, and she's very accommodating, and vice versa. She might want to go out and do things. Like, look, can you have Zuri over there? So,
all I'm getting from this is really, you guys are, even though you're of the opinion was because she said, oh, let's build our way up to that, but I'm hearing you built up trust, you built up equity, because if you were pulling your weight, if you weren't turning up as agreed in the call order, she was never going to trust you until she was free. And even when she was free, she'd be on your case, like, when is she coming back? Do you get what I mean? Like, you built up equity in that time, and that's why you've not been able to be flexible, somewhat, and adaptable as well. And that's something a lot of men who tap out, let's say, who just like hands off, they don't realize that you have to build trust, you have to build equity, because the woman has just carried a child for 9 months and had a child, and now you want to act up now, and you then want to opt out of being a dad just because of a rocky patch of 2-3 months. It's a long game. It's a long day that I'm sure you have a wealth of knowledge from men, especially because you've been through it. Like, a lot of people, they speak about it theoretically. Even myself, I only have certain knowledge because I speak to people like you who are willing to come across and just tell me what you've been through, but you don't want to form an opinion of you based off 1 or 2 months or 3 months even. That's not enough time. When the last 2 years, you were able to prove to her that, listen, you may not be a great partner, but you're a great dad.
Yeah.
That's all you can really be.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Spot on right there. Time is definitely a healer. Yeah. Time is definitely a tool in your utility belt that you can use. All right. And you know what? I think what kind of worked in my favor was it's hard being a parent. It's hard being a single mom, right? And if you can get as much help as you can, you're gonna want to utilize that. So, I think she got to a point where she was like, look, I want to go out with my girls and have fun, do you know what I mean? I want to do this, I want to do that. And I think she had quite a close relationship with her dad, so she didn't want to kind of deny that for Zuri as well. And so she just kind of was like, well, look, I'm going to kind of ease up here on that, and it's been working for us. It's been great for us, I think. So, but there was definitely, going back to what you said before, where like a few men would just be like, well, do you know what? I'm just going to give up. Yeah. And come see me when you're 18. There was definitely times in the process where I was thinking that.
Really?
Oh, 100%. There was definitely times where I was like, do you know what? You have her then. Do you know what I mean? You have her, and then she can come see me when she's 18. It's not worth it, sort of thing. And and there'll be other times where I'll be like, well, no, actually, let's kind of go through it. But there was definitely times in that process.
And what made you be like, nah, I had to see this through?
I don't actually There was a few things. There was one which was very silly of me, but we had an agreement in terms of financially how much to contribute outside of things, right? And I said, all right, cool, £150 a month, spy, right? She goes, 150 quid. So, yeah, it's all right. She's like 8 months old. She goes, nah, no chance. All right, cool, fine. That's how much I'm giving you.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a bit firm at that. And you know, we're in the middle of the process of the consent order process in court. So we were on the greatest of terms. Then I get a letter in the post from this child maintenance. And when I saw how much that they were and they do it based on like how much you're earning and tax and things like that. When I saw how much they wanted me to pay, I said,
you're humbled, and
I said, yeah, okay, I gotta see this kid now.
Yeah,
I can't pay it. I can't. I saw
this ain't funny, but
yeah,
I'm done to laugh about it.
Well, I can't pay it, so now and just like that's it, and not see.
Yeah, that's
important. And that kind of fueled me a little bit. It's been like, no, what kind of carry on? And the weird thing is, it keeps going up for some reason. I don't know why, but luckily we came to an agreement. I said, look, do you know what? Even though they keep on sending you letters saying I've got to pay more, I can't. It's based on, I think it's like based on like equity, because you kind of get like RSU, restricted stock units, when if you work at a few tech companies and things like that. And I think it was basing some of the income based on that. But
okay,
as you know, it's quite variable. So I said, look, I can pay you that full amount, or we can come to an agreement, outside of that. And we came to an agreement outside, which is near enough that figure that they told me to pay anyway. But yeah, that was definitely a factor to me. Like, look, I need to stick through this.
Yeah,
and family as well. My mom and the friends were there for me. It's just
I respect that, man. Now, but I guess it all goes back to the equity you built up again. In the trust you built up, and you that you was able to negotiate. I know you probably want less, but I do need to ask you though. I know you've been quite honest.
Yeah,
that £150. How did you come across that number? Like, why could that?
I think it was just me being a dickhead. I think, to be fair, I think I was just like, well, how much can a baby need? Do you know what I mean? I think she was like 8 months old at that time. I think the overriding theme here is me being a bit of a prick, which is dangerous for me, because in this day and age you can't get cancelled for shit like that. You can't, you know what I mean? You can't, and I had a talk with her mum before coming on here. I said, look, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be quite candid. Do you think it's the right thing to do, to be like that? Because what if Zuri sees this in 10, 20 years time, and here's this thing, she's gonna think this guy's a monster, He's not a nice person. But said, look, I think it's good for you to be honest and say your side of the story, as long as you're not, going off in there and bashing you, saying, oh, she was a bitch, she was that. It should be fine. So yeah. I think to answer your question, I was hurt at the time. We were going through court and we're doing this, and she's asking me for money, and I can't even see my child. Well, you're getting £150 net. You say hindsight's 2020. There's no way you can give someone £150 and expect her to be able to look after your child in the manner and.
There's a level of self-awareness that you've come into this space with, and I really appreciate that, because you could still be in denial, which a lot of men are in. A lot of people could still be like, yeah, it was her fault, or that's all the child deserved, all that kind of stuff. And I respect, and the fact that you clarify with her as well, like, going to come on the show, I respect that as well, man. So, yeah, John, thank you so much. And if you were to talk to someone, or talk to you from let's say 2019 even, and it's like your girlfriend at the time has got pregnant, what would you say to yourself? How would you approach this differently?
Yeah, don't let your insecurities cloud something that is, essentially a beautiful thing, right? It's a beautiful thing to kind of, to be with someone, to fall in love with someone, and then the culmination of your love is a child, right? And that's what happened, and to kind of don't let that cloud your judgment in your mind. For me, it was quite extreme. It went to the extremities of me taking a DNA test And then I did that, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. You know, she it turned out that she was mine, you know, and even after the DNA test, I was like, well, it says she's mine, but how come she's still not looking like me? So that was the extent of like my insecurities and like that. And if I could tell myself anything from now then, I think that's what I would kind of tell myself.
Okay, there's something you mentioned, the DNA test, and you still felt I think there's a point here that a lot of people don't seem to realize, and it's kind of like they're willing to dismiss how we feel.
Yeah.
Because like you said, rightfully, even though there's a DNA test, it still didn't make any logical sense. You thought to yourself like, oh, she still may not be mine.
Yeah.
And there's hindsight, that's not even logical because there's no other way to prove it.
That's right.
Harder with DNA test. But in that moment, how you felt, overrode everything.
Yeah. And that's the point I was, referring to before about leading with emotion rather than logic, and the heightened emotions that I was facing at the time, they were very heightened and they didn't make sense, And I had to be a bit introspective in myself and look inward and be like, well, why am I thinking like this? Why am I thinking like this? Why has this been like a history? Why has this train of thought been kind of like is common with me? And I'm glad to say that I kind of come out of it, the other side, and I don't think and feel like that about women and Miriam, and it's just a shame that I kind of had to do that, and that's what I feel like. My family had to kind of be broken in order for me to come to the realization, and that's one thing I do kind of want to let people know. If you're feeling like that, if you're thinking like that, this could be the result of that. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think anybody in an idealistic world would want like a broken family or separated family or blended family. So, yeah.
Yeah, John, thank you so much. I don't know if you're really on social media like that, and if you want to promote anything you want to put out there.
Nah. I know on socials.
John from Tech, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you so much, bro.
Yeah, thank you for having it.
Of course.
For sure.